If you own any XRP, you should watch this movie because there is a lot going on in the markets right now. The prices of digital properties and XRP in particular will be affected by these things. They will also affect the prices of a lot of other things in your life as well. In other words, we're talking about real estate shares. There are some big global factors at play right now that might blow your mind, but we also have some very important updates about XRP that you'll want to stay around for. But first, let's talk about the financial system one last time because this is going to have huge effects, pardon the term. First and most importantly, I want to talk about this, right? Its banks have lost 7 times as much money as they thought they would during the 2008 financial meltdown. You can now see the terrible economy of 2008 right here. That was the amount of money that was lost that time. It's a lot bigger now. So this is really strange, right? A lot of people are wondering why banks have such big losses that they haven't yet realized when stock markets and cryptocurrencies are at all-time highs. And yes, this is definitely because of debt. Right now, there's a big debt bubble. And just like the debt problem we saw in 2007 and 2008, there may be big effects on every single asset class, whether it's real estate shares, stocks, or something else. And while this boom bursts, my lord, the Federal Reserve will have to save them. What does that make you think? Well, basically a way that the money printer is going to turn on and we might see a lot more inflation again, which is crazy because we just went through a record amount of inflation over the past few years. This really wants our attention. We're going to talk about that in more depth. I will also say that there are going to be a lot of real opportunities with this economic cycle, which I will also talk about. But first, Kay, we need to talk about this too, because the job market is also showing a very interesting trend, and jobs really mean everything. You know that some asset classes do better when more people make, more people spend, and more people earn. That's just simple maths. Finally, we can see that the number of small business owners who said it was very hard to fill jobs dropped to about 34% in September. This is the lowest point since January 2021, when this 7% drop in factors caused the biggest drop in the measure. Since April 2020, this metric has dropped by 17% of factors every month since May 2022. It is now lower than it was before the pandemic. At the moment, only 15% of small businesses plan to hire in the next 3 months. Almost at the bottom since the pandemic in 2020. For lack of a better word, the number of jobs being created has stopped growing totally. Also, if we look at inflation rates, we can see an interesting pattern. The Federal Reserve is still fighting inflation. Inflation rose by 4.3% in September, which is a great sign. It has been over 3% for more than 3 years now. The Great Center inflation, which is also called middle services inflation less housing inflation, is an important measure that the Fed keeps an eye on. Now, great core inflation is rising again after falling sharply in the first half of 2023. This happened after a huge amount of quantitative tightening in the markets. They may be assuming to lower hobby prices, but we aren't always sure if they are telling the truth here because of direction inflation. That's a problem. In truth, the Fed is at its highest level because this is going in the same direction that it cut rates by 50 basis points. That's why the Fed is a little scared right now. They can see that the job market is slowing down. It is important to note that banks have a lot of debt and need help. He and the Fed both need to lower interest rates. They should know that if they don't lower interest rates, this bubble will get so big that it will be terrible. Without a question, it could be the worst economic disaster in the history of the world, not just the United States. So the fees should be lowered so that the banks can make some money again and not be in so much debt and trouble. Of course, they'll probably keep lowering hobby fees. But then what will happen is that inflation will keep going down, come back again. So it's like an unwinnable battle, no matter which way they go. Either the economy fails or the banks fail, or both, right? That means the Fed has to make a very tough choice right now. All of this will have an effect on virtual assets, but probably not in the way that some of you are asking. There are truly going to be some amazing chances here to make a huge amount of money, which I hope to talk about. Keep an eye out for that. But there's one more thing we need to remember: wars and diplomacy, right? There are exclusive battles going on right now that involve Iran, Israel, Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. With all of these other things going on around them right now, that will have a huge effect on everything else. If you didn't already know, a big part of how the US has kept its direction dominance is by having a Navy footprint all over the world. This means they can control other routes, they can keep some economies going and add to others so that they can't grow. And that is really important because if the US can keep doing this right, They might be able to stay the most powerful country in the world. If Iran wins the war against Israel, however, they will no longer be able to be present in certain waters where they want to be present because they are necessary for the delivery of a big amount of oil. And it will really let other countries grow and thrive at the expense of the United States of America. And they can't seem to find the money to do this right now. That's a big problem. And this is something that really needs to be thought about as well, with that in mind. There's a great chance in the markets right now that I want to tell you about. It's clear that you guys can make some really great deals. One thing you may know is that a lot of virtual currencies are overbought right now, and Bitcoin is one of them. Because of this, I just opened a 5x short position on Bitcoin because it is definitely overpriced at the moment. It's likely that we'll hear a big adjustment. As we saw at the start of October and the end of September right here. Now, you can see the last time we were in this overbought situation right here on the chart. Right after that, we did see a huge correction. That means that if you open a 5x short right now, you will have made a fortune. On the other hand, there may be an even better chance to short. That's why I have 2 shorts open right now. I just spread out some Dogecoin. That green line is right there for you to see. That's my Dogecoin brief I just opened, and based on the sound of things, Dogecoin has long since gone down a bit. I'm up 5% on this function, but I'm going to hold on to it for a little while longer. Once more, I think it's very likely. Dogecoin is going to go through the same kind of correction that Bitcoin did around the middle of September, early October. This is based on what we see at the stochastic RSI. It's possible that we'll move up a bit more from where we are now, just like we did from the beginning of September until now, but still. If that happens again, I'm going to open up a quick roll there because I know that's going to be fixed. And what we see here for Dogecoin is, once again, way too much. There are a lot of great ways to short. Okay, now.